Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 271, Searching for Traces of Barbarians. Meanwhile, outside Turtle Fort, Franklin's team was ready to search for traces of barbarians. They had stayed in the fort city for a few days to get some information, but the city guards weren't able to provide sufficient details. Do barbarians really look scary? Wolf asked, unable to hide his curiosity. He had only seen them in portraits and paintings, but he had never seen one in person. They were described as beasts in human form and many other exaggerated descriptions, but he was sure about one thing. The average barbarian was physically stronger than ordinary warriors. This means that all of them were gifted in battle, even the women. My grandfather said that barbarians are tall and muscular. They are innately powerful, and some are even born with unique abilities. Rasmus, who had received William's teachings, showed off his knowledge. The rest of the team listened with great interest, including Franklin, the leader of the group. He was born as a gladiator, so his knowledge about history was practically zero. Even the kid, Wolf, was more knowledgeable than him. You guys stop chatting and focus on the investigation. A cold voice drifted into their ears. It was Aaliyah, the strict and stern-faced warrioress. Everyone was afraid of her, so they obediently resumed their investigation. Time passed in the blink of an eye and afternoon quickly came, but the group was still unable to find any clues. Just as they were about to give up their search, Franklin suddenly sensed an unusual aura nearby. This aura. He squinted his eyes and looked in a certain direction. There are 3 of them, and each of them is as powerful as an ordinary knight. Is it them? He frowned when he discovered the other party's existence. He wasn't certain if these people were the barbarians that they had been searching for, so he didn't make a rash decision. However, he realized that the trio were approaching their location. Did they discover us? He furrowed his eyes as he signaled for the group to lay low and conceal their presence. Franklin hid behind a tree while cautiously observing the trio's movements. They are getting closer. Sweat trickled down his face as he slowly reached out to his weapon. At this moment, the trio finally entered his line of sight. It's indeed them. Barbarians. They had tall and muscular men dressed in leather armor. The weapons they carried were crudely made with ordinary appearance and no proper design. These warriors had tan skin and red eyes, which were unique features that most barbarians carried. Franklin sent a signal to the group, informing them of what he had discovered. Everyone's faces turned grim upon seeing his signal. They unconsciously moved their hands into the handle of their weapons, ready to take action at a moment's notice. Just when Franklin was about to give the signal to attack, the 3 barbarian warriors suddenly stopped to set up camp. They hadn't sensed us. Franklin heaved a sigh of relief. He signaled the group to relax and not make a noise. Let's see what you guys are up to. Back to Alaric. After leaving the Beast Garden, he went to the training grounds to let off some steam. He had already completed today's daily mission, so he didn't perform the usual weighted exercises and mana-infused sword training. I should try practicing other sword styles. There might come a time when they will be useful. Thinking about this, Alaric took a moment to gather his thoughts. He had already mastered the dual-wielding sword style and the orthodox sword style. There were still plenty of sword techniques that he hadn't mastered, but with his SSS-Rank Swordsmanship trait, it wouldn't take him long to master them. How about a speed-type sword technique? His dual sword style was a versatile technique that was focused on both offense and defense, but it had one small weakness. Speed. Alaric unsheathed the frigid dragon sword. It was a short sword with feather-like weight, so using it alone would significantly increase his speed. Whoosh. Whoosh. He swung his sword while trying to create a suitable sword technique that was focused on speed. Normally, it would take weeks or even months to create a sword technique, but to Alaric, it was just a matter of minutes. Whoosh. Whoosh. He was close to creating a sword technique when he sensed that someone was keenly observing him. Alaric opened his eyes and turned his head. It's him. Vaughn, a mercenary from Harrow. Henry's team discovered him when they were searching for the bedeviled Cornelia. When he heard of the man's circumstances, he didn't hesitate to provide monetary support for his family. Now, Vaughn had become a part of House Silversword's army. Because of his status as an elite knight, Alaric appointed him as a deputy company commander under Henry. This guy had a unique character. He was stubborn and fearless. He even heard from Henry that Vaughn once mentioned that he would storm House Silversword if the rewards promised to him wouldn't be delivered. Vaughn bowed to him when he realized that he had been discovered. I apologize, my lord. I didn't mean to interrupt your training. Alaric smiled faintly and beckoned to him. It is all right? How's your daughter and wife doing? When he mentioned this, Vaughn's expression softened. Thanks to the resources you provided, they are both doing well. My daughter has already recovered and my wife is set for delivery. I see. I am glad to hear that. Alaric chatted with the former mercenary. Do you want to use appraisal on the selected target? Yes, no. Alaric clicked yes out of habit. Vaughn, Elite Knight, EXP, 599/1000. Potential, C. Traits, flail mastery, A. Horseback riding, B. Archery, C. Hunting, B. Tracking, B. Farming, C. Fishing, C. Strength, 180. Stamina, 171. Agility, 159. Vitality, 186. Endurance, 185. Mana, 163. His attributes are almost the same as Henry's. Not bad for a mercenary. Do you want to have a spar with me? Alaric asked with a faint smile. Chapter 272, Spar between Vaughn and Alaric. Is he challenging me? Vaughn stared at Alaric with shock. He didn't expect the young lord to suggest something like this all of a sudden. I admit his swordsmanship is fancy, but is he confident enough to defeat me? Vaughn's fighting spirit was boosted when he saw Alaric staring at him with a taunting smile. If that's what my lord wants, then the subordinate will obey. He replied with a serious voice. Good. Please don't hold back, Sir Vaughn. Alaric said as he waved his sword, showing off his precise control. Are we really using real weapons for a spar? Vaughn frowned. He didn't know Alaric's intentions for doing this, and it made him slightly perturbed. After a moment of hesitation, he grabbed his flail and waited for Alaric to make the first move. I'm ready, my lord. Hearing this, Alaric grinned. Since you interrupted my training, be prepared to become the training dummy for the new sword technique I created. Thinking about this, he tapped his foot and rushed forward with quick footwork. He moved like the wind, fast and agile. Upon gaining momentum from the sudden charge, he raised his short sword and swung it with extreme speed. Whoosh! He is faster than me. Vaughn's eyes widened in surprise. He didn't expect Alaric to be this fast. He quickly adjusted his stance and lifted his flail to block his sword. Clang! When the spiky metal ball struck Alaric's blade, a loud clang echoed. He is this strong? Vaughn stared at the young warrior in disbelief. From what he had heard, Alaric wasn't even 20 years old. However, his power had already surpassed him, an elite knight who had trained for decades. So he wasn't being overly confident earlier. Vaughn frowned after he discovered Alaric's true power. He decided to be more cautious and serious about this spar. He warily observed the young elite knight while adjusting his posture to a more comfortable stance. Seeing the sudden change in his opponent's expression, Alaric smirked. That is right. You should be this careful if you do not want to be defeated so miserably. In the next moment, Alaric rushed once more. This time, he increased his speed by about 50%. His movements were so fast that he had almost turned into a blur. Whoosh! Whoosh! Vaughn could barely follow him. Knowing that he was at a disadvantage in terms of agility, he quickly changed his approach. He wielded his flail aggressively in an attempt to slow down Alaric's pace. Bang! Bang! Every time his flail struck the ground, it would leave a deep hole. I can't touch him. Sweat trickled down Vaughn's face. He was struggling to keep up with Alaric's fast and lethal sword strikes. The two were so focused on their battle that they didn't notice the growing number of spectators in the training ground. The warriors were awed by their spectacular battle. Clang! Clang! Among the spectators was Henry. He watched the battle with great anticipation and interest. He could see that Alaric was holding back, but he didn't say anything. Lord Alaric is only using one sword, but he still has the advantage. It's already a miracle for Vaughn to survive this long. He thought to himself. Vaughn's power was almost on par with him. The only difference between them was their experience and decision-making. Henry believed that he was ahead when it came to those factors. Strange. Lord Alaric's sword seems to be faster and his technique has changed. Did he create another sword technique? Henry raised his eyebrows with a look of disbelief. In the past few months, Alaric mostly focused on improving his dual sword style. He had rarely practiced different sword techniques. At this moment, Vaughn suddenly made a mistake which Alaric took advantage of. With a quick maneuver, he deflected Vaughn's flail and kicked him hard. The former mercenary was pushed back a couple of steps, making him briefly lose his balance. Alaric zoomed in, his blade just a few inches away from Vaughn's neck. It was a good fight, Sir Vaughn. Thank you for accepting my request. Alaric lowered his sword and smiled at the man. I lost? Vaughn could still not believe what had happened. He only made a mistake once, but Alaric was able to capitalize on it. He took the opportunity without hesitation and ended the battle with ease. He forced out a bitter smile as he replied. It's an honor to spar with you, my lord. I have learned a lot from this battle. Alaric noticed his uncomfortable smile, so he tapped the man's shoulder. I learned a lot from you too, Sir Vaughn. We should do this more often. If that's what you want, my lord. This subordinate will do as you command. Vaughn lowered his head. After the spar concluded, Alaric didn't stay in the training ground and left right away. Looking at him leave, Vaughn sighed while shaking his head. No wonder everyone is full of praise for him. Lord Alaric is indeed worthy of his reputation. Don't worry about it, Sir Vaughn. A nonchalant voice drifted into his ears. He turned around and saw Henry approaching him with a broad grin. Seeing this old warrior, he cupped his fists in greeting. Sir Henry. Henry returned the gesture and said. Lord Alaric's talent is unmatched. He had already defeated all the elite knights in the household. Well, except for one person. Vaughn revealed a look of curiosity upon hearing this. Alaric was probably the most powerful elite knight he had faced, so he wanted to know which man he hadn't defeated yet. Sensing his curious gaze, Henry chuckled. Do you know Sir Butch? He asked. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. Butch? I have heard of the name, but I'm not familiar with him. He was new to the household and there were still plenty of people who he wasn't familiar with. The masked warrior who always follows Lord Alaric around. That's him. He is also new to the household, but he has already defeated most elite knights who had requested to spar with him. He had also fought with Lord Alaric, but their battle would always end in a draw. Henry chuckled while shaking his head. Hearing this, the image of a tall warrior appeared in his mind. So it's him. He had seen this person a few times and the aura he exuded was indeed frightening for an elite knight. He even heard some people calling Butch the merciless executioner. It was a moniker that perfectly fit his image. I want to spar with him and see how large of a difference there is between us. Vaughn clenched his fists and expressed his desire to spar with Butch. Henry laughed at his unyielding spirit. You are quite brave, Sir Vaughn. Not a lot of people have the guts to spar with Sir Butch. It was a great decision to bring you here. Ha ha. Meanwhile, a few miles from Turtle Fort, Franklin's team was still observing the 3 barbarian warriors they discovered. What are they doing here? Wolf whispered. Franklin sent him a glare, making the young knight apprentice cover his mouth in embarrassment. Aaliyah also flicked Wolf's forehead for almost exposing them. The young warrior could only shut his mouth. At this moment, one of the barbarians suddenly looked over, giving them quite the scare. Franklin tightly held his sword while observing the barbarian's movement. He was ready to attack if he would discover anything abnormal. However, the barbarian's gaze shifted to another location, making him sigh in relief. Just what are they planning to do here? Franklin frowned. The team remained cautious throughout the whole observation, but one of them made a fatal mistake. He stepped on a twig which created a snapping sound that reached the ears of the barbarians. Who is there? One of the barbarians shouted in their own language. The 3 barbarian warriors scanned the surroundings while holding their weapons. Shit! Franklin cursed in his mind. There was no choice but to reveal themselves. Before showing himself to the barbarians, he sent a signal to his subordinates, informing them not to make any move. He then walked out from the big tree, revealing himself to the barbarian warriors. He raised his hands to show them that he had no intention to fight. Relax. I didn't come here to fight. I only came here by accident. Franklin spoke in the common tongue, hoping that the barbarians could understand him. Why should we believe you? You don't look very convincing. Surprisingly, the barbarians could speak the common tongue. Franklin was relieved that they were able to understand him. From the little information he knew about the barbarians, he was aware that only a few of them could speak the common tongue. Which means that these barbarian warriors weren't ordinary members of their tribe. Throw your sword away and we might believe you. One of the barbarians shouted. Hearing this, Franklin frowned. He didn't want to engage them in battle since it might complicate the delicate relationship between the barbarian tribes and Estania. After some hesitation, he threw his sword. Do you believe me now? Chapter 273, The Red-Haired Barbarian, Pulla. The 3 barbarian warriors exchanged knowing glances upon seeing Franklin throw his weapon. Not good. These guys. Franklin immediately sensed their intentions when he saw the strange expression on their faces. The next moment, the barbarian warriors charged at him and aggressively brandished their weapons. Stupid Estanian warrior! One of the barbarians shouted. Franklin quickly grabbed his secondary weapon, a dagger tied to his right leg. Clang! He blocked the barbarian wielding the machete and kicked another to send him flying backwards. Before the last one could slash his head off, Franklin ducked and released a sweeping kick. Whoosh! Thud! 2 barbarians were swiftly defeated in just a few moves. The remaining one was stunned. He didn't expect the 3 of them to be overpowered by one warrior in an instant. He wanted to escape, but Franklin grabbed his arm and threw him to the ground. Thud! Franklin could have killed them, but killing these barbarians could be problematic, so he chose to spare their lives. After disarming them, he asked his subordinates to tie them up. Estanian warrior, you will pay for this. One of the barbarians shouted while trying to break free from chains that restrained him. Franklin almost failed to contain his anger. I told you I don't mean you any harm. It was you guys who made the first move, so don't blame me for doing this. Sir, why don't we kill these guys? I don't think they have good intentions for sneaking into our borders. Muttered Aaliyah as she made a throat-slitting gesture. She spoke in Estanian language, so the barbarians didn't know what she said, but her gestures made them understand her intentions. Franklin stared at the young lady with a speechless look. Before he could respond, Rasmus said, No, we must not harm them. Aaliyah turned her head and looked at him with an eyebrow raised upwards. Give me a good reason why. Rasmus took a deep breath and replied with a serious voice. Calm down, Aaliyah. Lord Alaric commanded us to investigate the barbarian movements. He didn't instruct us to engage them in battle. Killing them here could be troublesome and it might affect the relationship between the northern houses and the barbarian tribes. If there would be an investigation, House Silversword could be implicated. Aaliyah frowned and realized her mistake. She had almost acted out of anger. Thinking about this, she no longer said anything. Franklin sent Rasmus a look of approval before he moved his gaze back to the barbarians. Let's not make it hard for everyone. If you tell us what you guys are doing here, then we will set you free. He said in common language. 2 of the barbarians subconsciously glanced at the person who seemed to be their leader. It was only an instinctive response, but Franklin was quick to notice this. This barbarian should be their leader. He thought as he looked at the red-haired barbarian with tattoos on his shoulders. Why should we believe the words of bastards like you? The red-haired barbarian snorted, unwilling to give in. Franklin stared deeply at him. Should I kill him? No one will know if I hide their corpses, and I can also make it look like it was done by beasts. When this thought crossed his mind, his eyes flashed with killing intent. The barbarians who were exposed to cruel environments immediately sensed this. It was only for a moment, but it didn't escape their trained senses. Wait. Don't listen to him. We will tell you the truth, but you must let this man go. You can take us instead. Yes. We will tell you, but you must spare him. The red-haired barbarian was stunned. He looked at his companions with a look of disbelief. You too? Franklin narrowed his eyes. It seems like this guy's identity is a little bit special. All right. You may speak. If you tell me the truth, I will let him go. He nodded. Before the two barbarians could say anything, the red-haired barbarian suddenly shouted. What are you two doing? Are you both idiots? This is obviously a lie. Don't least dash. Franklin smacked the man's head using the handle of his sword, making him fall unconscious. Oh Hinaba! The two barbarians shouted in alarm. Don't worry. I only knocked him out. Franklin reassured them. Hearing his words, the two barbarians immediately inspected their leader's pulse, and they were relieved to know that nothing happened to him. Now tell why you guys are here. Franklin's voice drifted into their ears. The two barbarians hesitated for a moment. Can you guarantee his life? One of them said while pointing at the unconscious barbarian. Franklin nodded. As long as you tell me the truth, I promise that I will spare his life. Hearing this, the two finally revealed the truth. One of our chief's sons was captured by your people, so we came here to investigate his whereabouts, but we can't get close to your territory because there are a lot of strong warriors preventing us from entering. According to them, the second son of their tribe's chieftain was captured, so they sent their warriors to track the kidnappers, but they were a bit too late. The kidnappers managed to enter Turtle Fort before they could rescue the chieftain's son. They tried to bypass the security, but they were easily spotted by the experts of Turtle Fort, so they could only linger outside the fortress city. Franklin frowned. This matter was more troublesome than he had thought. Someone actually dared to capture a barbarian tribe leader's son. I must report this to my lord. Franklin knew that this could cause a major battle between the northern houses and the barbarian tribes if things weren't handled well. However, this matter hasn't been verified yet. These guys might be lying to him to save themselves, so he didn't believe everything they told him. I see. Franklin thought deeply, but he didn't know what to do. Sir, how about we bring them to the estate and ask Lord Alaric's opinion? Rasmus suddenly interjected. Hearing this, Franklin rubbed his chin. It wasn't a bad idea, but the problem was how to bring the barbarians without being discovered. That would be troublesome. The warriors in Turtle Fort might discover them and we might be treated as smugglers. If this is reported to the imperial family, House Silversword will be punished. Renanti, who had been silent the entire time, voiced out his opinion. Franklin nodded in agreement. This was what he was worried about too. Then why don't we just send people to report the situation to Lord Alaric while the rest of us wait here? Aaliyah suggested. It's your call, Sir Franklin. Everyone stared at Franklin, waiting for his decision. Franklin took a deep breath and contemplated his choices carefully. After a few minutes of silence, he finally made his decision. We will release them and return to North Pine Town to report the situation to Lord Alaric. He knew the feeling of being deprived of freedom, and he felt that it was wrong to forcefully take these men with them. Although their words hadn't been investigated yet, he was willing to take the blame. The three young warriors seemed to have expected this. They smiled and gave him a respectful salute. Yes, sir? Franklin looked at the barbarians and said, we will investigate the situation first. If it turns out to be true, I will help you guys search for your chief's son. The barbarians didn't expect to hear this. They were already prepared to be executed, so they didn't know how to respond. Without waiting for their answer, Franklin signaled his subordinates to release them. Rasmus and the others followed his instructions to remove the barbarians' restraints. Why are you helping us? One of the barbarians spoke. Franklin stared at him and calmly replied. Because that is the right thing to do. The barbarians were stunned. They believed that Estanian warriors were arrogant and merciless men, but this man overturned their beliefs. I will give you guys one last piece of advice before we go our separate ways. Franklin paused for a moment before he continued. You must leave. Not all northern warriors are reasonable men. You will only be in danger if you stay here. After saying these words, Franklin turned around and signaled his subordinates to retreat. Just as they were about to leave, a voice drifted into their ears. Wait! Franklin and his subordinates stopped in their tracks. They looked at the red-haired barbarian who had regained consciousness. Tell me your name. The red-haired barbarian looked at Franklin. Franklin, a warrior from House Silversword. The former gladiator replied. My name is Pulla. I will remember you, Franklin. The red-haired barbarian stood up. He then said something to the two barbarians and left without looking back. Pulla, what a weird name. Franklin watched them leave for a few seconds before he instructed. Let's get going. We can't delay this matter any longer. Yes, sir? Chapter 274, the small town bustled with activity, so House Silversword had to increase the security to ensure the safety of the visitors. They even requested Vale's help to increase their defenses. With all these preparations, no one dared to cause trouble within the town. Even the arrogant heirs of the nobility didn't dare cause a ruckus. At this moment, Alaric was inspecting the wedding venue, making sure that everything was in place. Next week, I will finally marry Hershey. Alaric smiled upon thinking about this. In his past life, he had neglected her feelings, so he wanted to right his wrongs and make her happy in this life. Suddenly, a servant came to him with an urgent look and reported, "My lord, the people from the church are here. His Excellency, Amari Anton, is also with them." Hearing this, Alaric immediately stopped what he was doing. Some time ago, he invited the bishop to officiate his wedding, and to his surprise, the man agreed. "His Excellency came earlier than I thought. All right, I will go and greet them. You may leave and continue with your tasks." Alaric waved his hand and dismissed the servant before he left. He rode his frost horse and headed to the town center to meet the church's entourage. He also brought Galliner and 10 warriors with him to show that he had placed great importance on meeting them. They later found the bishop's group chatting with the townspeople about the teachings of Aru. Bishop Amari looked over when he sensed their presence. That man must be Galliner." The bishop was momentarily shocked when he sensed Galliner's formidable aura. He even had a feeling that he would lose if he would have to fight this man. Alaric didn't dare be disrespectful. He jumped off his horse and bowed to the bishop, cupping his fists. Galliner and the warriors also got off their horses and greeted the bishop. "Greetings, Your Excellency." "Greetings, Your Excellency." Bishop Amari Anton smiled faintly. "You didn't have to come all the way here to greet me, my lord. I know you are busy with your wedding preparations. How could I do that?" Alaric and the bishop exchanged pleasantries. "Your Excellency, I have already prepared your accommodations. How about we take you there first? We can continue our conversation later," Alaric suggested with a smile. "All right then. I will have to trouble you with leading the way." The bishop nodded with a gentle smile. They had already booked an inn, but it would be disrespectful to reject Alaric's good intentions, so he agreed to follow him. They chatted about random matters along the way. Soon they arrived at the estate. Alaric brought them to the new and bigger guest mansion. No one was there yet since this place was reserved for the most influential people. Not even the lower nobility were qualified for this treatment. Alaric brought them in and said, "I had my people build this mansion for important guests like Your Excellency. I hope you will enjoy your stay in this humble mansion." "Oh my! I don't deserve this treatment at all." Bishop Amari was flattered, but he didn't show it to his face. Alaric gave them a quick tour of the mansion which lasted almost half an hour. "Why don't we sit down to get some rest, Your Excellency? I have already informed the servants to prepare some food and refreshments. They will send them once everything is ready." "All right." Bishop Amari nodded, looking pleased by his well-made preparations. While waiting for the food to arrive, Alaric thought about something and decided to mention it. "Your Excellency, have you heard about the recent sightings of barbarians near Turtle Fort?" Bishop Amari's face turned serious upon hearing this. As one of the highest-ranking members of the church, he was privy to the major events that took place within the empire, so he was aware of this matter. "I have indeed heard of this." He didn't deny it. Alaric already expected this, so he wasn't surprised. "What do you think are their intentions for revealing themselves after a few decades of silence?" The bishop stared at the young heir with a deep look. "Is he probing me?" The church had a huge network of information, but there was no detailed report about the recent barbarian sightings. After a moment of silence, the bishop shook his head and replied with an apologetic tone. "I'm sorry, my lord, but I'm also not sure about their intentions." "I see. What a pity." Alaric sighed with a look of regret. This matter was bothering him all this time, but the people he had sent to investigate the situation hadn't returned yet. Alaric changed the topic to liven up the atmosphere. Their food also arrived a moment later and the serious mood became lively once more. However, a messenger suddenly came and whispered something to his ears. "My lord, Sir Franklin and his team have returned." Hearing this, Alaric raised his eyebrows. "Speak of the devil. He came at the right time." Alaric smiled and excused himself. "Something important came up, Your Excellency. If there is anything that you need, do not hesitate to inform me. I will take my leave first. Please excuse me." He bowed to the bishop and left with his subordinates. Amari glanced at their departing figures with a look of interest. I wonder why he left in such a hurry. Meanwhile, Alaric had already left the guest mansion. He headed straight to the main mansion where Franklin's group was waiting. As soon as he arrived, Franklin and his team immediately greeted him. "My lord, we apologize for the delay. It took us a while to investigate the situation," Franklin explained. Alaric waved his hand and asked, "What did you find out?" With a serious expression, Franklin cleared his throat before he responded. We discovered that. Chapter 275. Imperial Family's Representative. We discovered the reason behind the barbarians' movements near Turtle Fort. It turns out that Franklin told him about what he had heard from the red-haired barbarian named Pulla. He also told Alaric his opinion about the situation. Alaric tapped Franklin's shoulder and said, "You have done well, Sir Franklin. Killing those men would have caused harm to our relationship with the barbarian tribes, and we might even be investigated by the Imperial family. However, we still need to verify whether this information is true. Mission: save the captured barbarians. Mission difficulty: normal. House Coldstone broke the peace treaty between the barbarian tribes and Estania. They captured a group of young barbarians, including the son of a barbarian chieftain. Save them to prevent the situation from escalating into a full-blown war. Rewards: 600 battle points, 20 EXP, 10 stat points." Alaric furrowed his eyebrows when he saw the mission details. So this matter is related to House Coldstone. It must be the doing of that bastard, Xavier. Only someone like him would do something like this. Alaric was furious. This peace was something that his father and numerous warriors had fought hard to achieve. But one household actually dared to destroy this hard-earned peace. "Summon Fredrin here at once," Alaric instructed in a cold voice. Sensing his anger, Franklin didn't dare waste any time and responded right away. "Yes, my lord." Less than a quarter of an hour later, Franklin returned with Fredrin following behind him. "My lord, I have brought Sir Fredrin with me." Alaric waved his hand, indicating for him to leave. "Thank you, Sir Franklin. I will send someone to reward your team for your efforts." Seeing his signal, Franklin bowed, turned around, and left. After he left, Alaric beckoned to Fredrin and asked, "Sir Fredrin, is Xavier still alive?" Fredrin frowned and replied, "Yes, my lord, but if you want to speak with him, it might be difficult." Alaric didn't ask why. He was only asking casually because Xavier was the greatest suspect in the abduction of the barbarians. Since the man was no longer in the right condition to speak, Alaric could only forget about him. "I have a mission for you. This is related to House Coldstone and Xavier." Fredrin took a deep breath and replied, "I'm all ears, my lord. I have received a report that House Coldstone has captured a group of barbarians. If something happens to them, it could lead to a war against the barbarian tribes. We must not allow that to happen." Fredrin could sense Alaric's fury and concern about the situation. "I see. You can leave this matter to me, my lord. House Coldstone has been greatly weakened after Sir Galliner attacked them with his army. There shouldn't be an issue this time," Fredrin thought to himself. "Good. I will send Sir Vaughn, Sir Henry, and 20 warriors with you for this trip. Please save those barbarians." It was only a normal-rated mission, so Alaric didn't send a transcendent knight. He believed that sending 3 elite knights was more than enough for the task. Fredrin acknowledged the command with a salute. "I assure you that I will complete this mission." With 2 veteran elite knights following him for the trip, he felt more confident about their safety. "You may leave after informing your wife." Alaric waved his hand. Fredrin took this as his cue to leave. "Yes, my lord," he said before he left with quick strides. "What a pity. I thought I would get a hard-rated mission. Still, this is better than having nothing at all." Without missions, he would be stuck in the elite knight realm for a long time, so he was eager to get more. If it weren't for his coming wedding, he would gone out to seek opportunities. While he was immersed in his thoughts, he suddenly heard the sound of a galloping horse. "HM?" He turned around and saw that it was a warrior from the town's garrison. The man got off his horse and kneeled before Alaric. "My lord, urgent report." Alaric's face turned serious. "Speak." "The Imperial family has sent a representative. They are heading to the town as we speak," the man said with a grim look. "The Imperial family?" Alaric frowned. He sent a wedding invitation to the Imperial family for formality's sake, but he didn't expect them to really come. "Go and inform the Baron and the Madam about this. I will wait for them at the entrance of the town," Alaric instructed the man. This was a representative from the Imperial family, so he couldn't afford to be negligent. "Yes, my lord." The warrior saluted and left with haste. Meanwhile, Alaric summoned all the highest-ranking military officers in the household. Soon, more than 20 warriors gathered before him, including the 3 transcendent knights. "Prepare to greet the representative from the Imperial family," Alaric announced. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They never would have thought that the Imperial family would actually come to their town. Everyone followed Alaric to the entrance of North Pine Town. They were curious to know which important figure the Imperial family sent to join the wedding ceremony. Alaric and the military officers patiently waited outside the main gate. The visitors who were queuing up at the entrance were stunned upon seeing them. They wondered which impressive figure was coming to the town. A moment later Lucas and Maria arrived. "My lord! My lady!" Alaric greeted them. The couple approached their son to confirm the situation with him. While they were chatting, an entourage of about 50 people appeared in their sights. "Those flags! They are from the imperial family," someone from the crowd shouted in surprise. The ordinary civilians immediately kneeled in fear, while the warriors lowered their heads as they waited for the imperial family's entourage to arrive. Meanwhile, the members of House Silversword furrowed their eyebrows. "Princess Irish has arrived. Everyone, show your respect to the Princess of Estania," a warrior from the imperial entourage shouted. Chapter 276. The Hidden Dragon of the North. Under everyone's nervous gazes, a blonde-haired young lady got off the carriage. She looked calm as she scanned the crowd with her captivating ocean blue eyes. She wore a red dress with a 9-clawed golden dragon symbol, the unique insignia of the imperial family. "Greetings, Your Highness." The crowd respectfully greeted her. Irish nodded indifferently while searching for someone in the crowd. When she saw Alaric standing beside Lucas, her eyes momentarily stopped at him. "That should be him, my cousin. He truly resembles Aunt Jade." Her expression visibly softened when she thought of this. "Thank you for gracing us with your presence, Your Highness." Lucas approached her with a faint smile on his face. He noticed the strange look she was giving him, but he ignored it. Princess Irish let out a smile as she replied, "I should be the one thanking you, Lord Lucas. It was getting boring in the castle, and you gave me the perfect reason to come out and have fun." She said it in a joking manner, but Lucas could sense that it was most likely the truth. He forced out a smile and said, "We have arranged your accommodations, Your Highness. Why don't you follow us there, so we can continue our conversation in a more private space?" "All right." Princess Irish didn't give him a hard time. She had mixed feelings about Lucas. Sometimes she resented him for making her aunt suffer, but she mostly felt pity for him. Her aunt repeatedly told her that Lucas also had it hard, so she must not resent him. The princess returned to her carriage after a short exchange of words with the Baron. The warriors of House Silversword then escorted her to the estate. They even cleared the way for her, ensuring that there wouldn't be any accidents on the road. The princess was already used to this kind of treatment, so she didn't find it unnatural. About a quarter of an hour later, they finally arrived at the newly built guest mansion. Within this mansion was a special room meant only for the members of the imperial family. Maria was more familiar with the layout of the mansion, so she was responsible for explaining the structure to her. However, the princess was unfocused the entire time since her attention was mostly on Alaric, her cousin. "He does not even feel pressured by my identity. This kind of temperament is rare to find even among the nobility. Well, he has the blood of Estania and the heroic spirit of Lord Lucas." While she was secretly sizing up her cousin, she was unaware that Alaric had already noticed her unusual behavior. "Why is she looking at me intently? Is there something on my face?" Alaric felt a bit conscious because of her scrutinizing eyes. He wanted to remind her, but she might think that he was being impolite, so Alaric decided to endure it. While they were walking along the spacious hallway of the mansion, the princess suddenly stopped. "Lord Alaric, I heard that you are skilled with the sword. Would you allow me to witness your swordsmanship?" Everyone glanced at her in surprise, not expecting her to make this request in this situation. Alaric was also taken aback. He looked at the princess and humbly replied with a light smile, "It would be my pleasure to perform in front of Your Highness. I hope you will not laugh at my lacking skills." Princess Irish looked pleased with his response. "Good." She then beckoned to one of the warriors standing behind her. It was a bald, middle-aged man dressed in steel-plated armor. He had an average height and a lean body, which was quite ordinary for an imperial guard. However, this seemingly ordinary guard possessed the aura of an elite knight. "This is Sir Alan. He is a member of my guard team. Do not be fooled by his appearance. Sir Alan is one of the best elite knights of the imperial guards." Princess Irish introduced the bald, middle-aged warrior. "I want you to spar with him. That way I can witness the full extent of your abilities. What do you think, Lord Alaric?" She beamed at her cousin. Alaric glanced at the imperial guard named Alan. The man's aura was indeed formidable. With a quick appraisal, he discovered that he was almost on the same level as Henry and Vaughn. "Since Your Highness has already said it this way, how could I decline your request?" Alaric smiled wryly. Revealing his power to the imperial family wouldn't be an issue. With their extensive network, they should be mostly aware of his strength. However, there was also another reason why he agreed so readily. This was because he felt a close connection with the princess. It was a weird feeling that brought numerous questions to his mind. The princess giggled at his words. "In that case, please begin," she announced with a flourish of her sleeve. Everyone gave them some room. The hallway was wide enough for them to spar, but Maria was worried that the walls might collapse under their intense power. Sensing her worry, Lucas grabbed her hand and whispered, "Relax. Everything will be all right. I am sure they will hold back their strength." Maria sighed and responded, "I hope so." At this moment, Alaric cupped his fists to Alan to show the man some respect. The Imperial Guard reciprocated the gesture with a light bow. "Please excuse my rudeness, my lord." Alan Elite Knight, EXP. 325 out of 1000. Potential, C. Traits, Swordsmanship, A. Horseback riding, B. Archery, C. Hunting, B. Tracking, B. Close combat, B. Strength, 172. Stamina, 165. Agility, 170. Vitality, 160. Endurance, 161. Mana, 155. Alaric calmly observed his opponent. This guy's attributes are very balanced and the ratings of his traits are also high for someone at his level. The Imperial Guards are indeed in a different league than ordinary warriors. Alaric didn't underestimate his opponent despite his clear advantage in attributes. "This is the perfect opportunity to test out the new technique I created." Thinking about this, he slowly unsheathed his short sword. As soon as he revealed his sword, the spectators felt a sudden drop in the temperature. His opponent, Alan, was the first to notice this and it made him feel pressured. He could tell at a glance that Alaric's sword was a relic. He unsheathed his sword and adjusted his stance. If Alaric would make his move, he was prepared to take action. A few seconds passed, but both warriors didn't seem to have the intention to initiate the attack. "What a careful man." Alaric smirked. He decided to make the first move. He rushed forward and released a casual swing. Whoosh! It was an attack that used half of his strength, a probing move meant to determine his opponent's strength and reaction speed. Alan didn't disappoint him. He grunted as he lifted his sword to parry Alaric's probing attack. Clang! Sparks flew in all directions after their weapons clashed. His swordsmanship is already impressive, but his footwork still needs some improvement. Alaric thought to himself. Clang! Clang! Both warriors didn't use their mana. It was a pure contest of strength and swordsmanship. From the perspective of ordinary people, it looked like they were on even footing, but to the skilled warriors, they could clearly see who held the upper hand. "He's strong. I can barely parry his sword, and I'm already using most of my physical strength." Alan was stunned. He realized that his opponent wasn't even using his full power. So this is the strength of Alaric's Silversword. He is truly worthy of his title, the Hidden Dragon of the North. News about the recent orc subjugation had already spread to Cadera, and this had increased the reputation of House Silversword's warriors, including Alaric himself. He had received many nicknames from the residents, but there was one name that everyone agreed was perfect for him. The Hidden Dragon of the North. The princess and her subordinates were shocked by Alaric's prowess. His abilities had far exceeded their expectations. Suddenly, Alaric ended the battle with a slash that cut Alan's sword in half. Alan stared at his broken sword in disbelief. Although it wasn't a relic, it was a weapon carefully crafted by the blacksmiths of the imperial family. However, such a durable sword was destroyed by Alaric without even using his mana. Still reeling in shock, he looked at the young warrior and asked, How did you do that, my lord?" Alaric sheathed his sword and replied with a light smile. "I just hit your sword on the same spot." He made it sound easy, but everyone knew how difficult it was. Alan was flabbergasted. With a wry smile, he shook his head. "I lost," he muttered. Everyone clapped their hands for the performance of both warriors. "Splendid fight," Princess Irish exclaimed while clapping her hands. Everyone could see the excitement on her face. "Raise your head, Sir Alan. Losing to Lord Alaric is not embarrassing. You just need to train harder and improve your skills," the princess said to the downcast Imperial Guard. "Yes, Your Highness," Alan responded with a bow. Chapter 277. The Princess Visits the Baron. The princess visit was outside their expectations, but House Silversword was quick to make the necessary adjustments to the security. They couldn't allow anything to happen to her. Otherwise, they would have to face the wrath of the imperial family. In the next few days, more visitors arrived in the town. Some had even come from other regions, but everyone was aware of these people's intentions. The sudden surge of foreigners brought pressure on the security personnel of the town. To lessen their burden, Lucas asked for military support from their allies. At this moment, Alaric was playing chess with the princess together with a group of young heirs from various noble, martial, and merchant households. The atmosphere was harmonious and it seemed like everyone was on good terms on the surface, but Alaric knew that there were some people present who were part of the Second Prince's and Crown Prince's factions. "You lost again, Lord Alaric." The princess giggled after making Alaric fall into her trap. Alaric smiled wryly while shaking his head. "You should play with someone else, Your Highness. I am really not good at this." He had no talent for playing chess or even any kind of board game. He wasn't bad at them, but he wasn't good either. Princess Irish shook her head and sent him a teasing glance. No. I like playing with you. You are just bullying me since I am a newbie. Alaric didn't want to play with her anymore. He had already lost 5 times in a row against her. Fine. I will not force you. The princess no longer insisted. She then stood up and said, I still have some matters to discuss with Lord Lucas, so I will take my leave first. Do you want me to send you to his study? Alaric asked. Princess Irish shook her head and replied, There is no need. I can go there by myself. All right. Just let me know if you need anything, Your Highness. Alaric cupped his fists while secretly using appraisal on her. Irish Estania, Knight, EXP. 80 out of 500. Potential, B. Talent, Swordsmanship, D. Hunting, E. Archery, D. Horseback riding, D. Calligraphy, B. Painting, B. Dancing, C. Beast Whisperer, D. Chess, B. Go, C. Business Management, C. Fast Learner, B. Strength, 27. Stamina, 32. Agility, 31. Vitality, 29. Endurance, 28. Mana, 31. Her attributes are mediocre, but she has a wide array of traits. I wonder what she would like to discuss with Dad. The princess didn't sense his scrutiny and left with her bodyguards. My lord, how about you play with us? I can help you train your chess skills. I'm not trying to boast, but I won against Her Highness yesterday. Don't listen to him, my lord. You should play with me instead. The excited heirs eagerly invited Alaric to play with them, but Alaric was in no mood to play after losing 5 times consecutively against the princess. I am sorry, everyone, but I am feeling tired. I will play you another day. Please excuse me. Alaric left right away. Meanwhile, the princess had already arrived inside the baron's study. For what reason did you come to visit me, Your Highness? Lucas asked while looking at the princess. In the past few days, the princess was giving him weird looks, and it gave him the feeling that she knew something about him which made him uncomfortable. The princess adjusted her sitting posture as she stared deeply at the baron. There is no need for you to feel guarded against me, Lord Lucas. I am not your enemy. I also came here to deliver a letter sent by my aunt. While saying those words, she took out a sealed letter from her leather bag and handed it to him. Lucas raised an eyebrow upon hearing her words, but when his eyes fell on the sealed letter, his expression changed. After he removed the seal, a familiar scent drifted into his nose. It was the scent of someone he had been longing for. Jade! His voice trembled as he uttered that name. He silently read the letter and struggled not to show his emotions. Aunt said that you should not come to the Imperial Palace for the time being, Irish muttered. Lucas put down the letter and looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. Why? Is it because the Imperial family thinks that I am unworthy of her? He was already aware that Jade was about to be married to the Crown Prince of Haroon. He had come to learn of this after the old Marquis, Tyrone Agalsitar, visited North Pine Town. The princess frowned as she replied, Lord Lucas, you may be powerful, but you cannot take on the Imperial family by yourself. Besides, there is a monster guarding the Imperial castle. As long as that man is there, my aunt could never leave the castle. Lucas became silent. He knew who she was talking about. Other than the Emperor, there was another mythical knight in the Empire. He was a man who had helped the Emperor solidify his position as the ruler of Estania. It was also because of his presence that no noble household dared to even think about rebelling. However, there had been no news about him for decades and many had already forgotten about him. Dominic the Vanquisher. It was a name once feared by many. Even Lucas was afraid of him. However, things were different now. I now stand in the same realm as you. Your Highness, you need not worry. I know what I am doing. Lucas responded indifferently. It wasn't the right time to reveal himself yet, so he didn't explain it to the princess. Letting her know might only make things more complicated, so he decided not to tell her about his recent advancement. Is Lord Alaric already aware of his true identity? The princess suddenly asked. Hearing this, Lucas let out a deep sigh. No, I have not told him yet. I am afraid that he might do something foolish if I told him the truth. Chapter 278. Vaughn's unique way of asking for information. The princess shook her head. Lord Alaric is not a stupid man. He will come to know about this soon. Lucas sighed once more. He nodded his head and replied, I know. I will tell him everything after his wedding. He had already planned to tell Alaric the truth even without the princess' reminder. Then I will not say anything more. The princess no longer pursued the matter when she noticed Lucas' expression. She changed the topic and told him more things about her aunt. Lucas's face relaxed the more he listened. While everyone in North Pine Town was preparing for Alaric's wedding, The team led by Fredrin, Vaughn, and Henry had already arrived in Copperglade. They had come here under the orders of Alaric to search for the whereabouts of the captured barbarians. Their only clue was that House Coldstone was involved with this. Fredrin also brought Xavier with them to get more information from his mouth, but the latter refused to say anything. How should we start the investigation? Do you two have any suggestions? Fredrin glanced at Vaughn and Henry, hoping to hear their opinions. Vaughn remained silent, and it looked like he had nothing to say. On the other hand, Henry thought for a moment before he replied. Since House Coldstone is involved with this, why don't we just visit their estate and question them? With their military crippled, I don't think they have the means to fight our group. The two elite knights could sense the old warrior's confidence. Fredrin furrowed his eyebrows. It was true that House Coldstone's military had been crippled by Galliner, but he didn't want to make the same mistake he did during his last mission. I understand, but we must remain cautious at all times. We never know what kind of traps those people had set up after the terrible defeat they experienced under the hands of Sir Galliner's troops. Fredrin reminded him. The old warrior nodded with a stern look. He had been told about Fredrin's experience, so he decisively quashed his arrogant thoughts. We can ask the people in the city for some information. I know who we should ask for matters like this, said Vaughn, who was silent the entire time. Fredrin and Henry glanced at him. Follow me. Vaughn took the lead. He brought them to Jusrin district, which was known as the most dangerous place in the city. The reason for this was because of the presence of various underground organizations in the district. Fredrin and Henry realized Vaughn's intentions. The underground forces here are not to be underestimated. They have eyes and ears everywhere in Copperglade. Even the noble houses in the city work with them to take care of some things. Vaughn was a mercenary, so he was familiar with this kind of stuff. He had encountered all sorts of people in his line of work. He believed that these seemingly insignificant underground forces could help them uncover the truth about the kidnapping of the barbarians. Fredrin and Henry nodded in agreement. Soon, they arrived in front of an old inn. Their group quickly attracted the attention of the inn's guests. How can I help you? The receptionist was a squinty-eyed, middle-aged man. Vaughn stared at the man and said indifferently, We want information. The middle-aged receptionist frowned upon hearing this. He shook his head and calmly replied, I apologize, but this is an inn. We don't sell information here. Vaughn made a gesture to Henry. The old warrior understood his intentions and handed him a small leather pouch. After taking the pouch from him, Vaughn placed it in front of the receptionist. You will get this if you give us what we want. The jingling sound of coins echoed, which made the receptionist smile weirdly. Do you think you can buy me with this little bit of dash? Pa! Vaughn didn't let him continue and punched his face hard. I am in no mood to negotiate with you. Speak if you don't want to die here. Fredrin and Henry were stunned by the sudden turn of events. Didn't you tell us not to mess with these people? They were speechless by his unexpected actions. Although it wasn't part of their plan, they immediately signaled to their subordinates to prepare for battle. More than 10 people approached them with sharp gazes, but before they could make a move, the receptionist suddenly exclaimed in terror, Elite Knight! You are an elite knight! Hearing this, the men who were approaching them stopped in their tracks. It was as if their feet were glued to the floor. The guests were shocked to hear this, and some smart people even left the inn. They didn't want to get involved with whatever was about to happen. I will tell you. IW will tell you everything why you want to know. Just spare me, sir. The receptionist was terrified. He was only a knight apprentice. His little bit of strength was nothing in front of an elite knight. Good. Now tell me if there is any suspicious activity within House Coldstone. Vaughn smirked. The receptionist gulped in fear. He didn't dare ask anything and proceeded to tell him everything that he knew. Most of the things he said were unrelated to their mission, but the receptionist mentioned something that made them feel interested. It was the slave auction hosted by House Coldstone and a few other noble houses. According to the receptionist, many aristocrats and rich merchants would come to join the event. That's all I know, sir. The receptionist nervously glanced at them. He looked at the inn's guards, but they pretended not to notice his gaze. Vaughn tapped the man's shoulder and warned him. Next time, don't act like you are some kind of big shot. Yes, sir. The receptionist nodded his head repeatedly. You didn't see us here. Do you understand? Vaughn stared deeply at the man. Yes, sir. Nothing happened here. I didn't see anything. The receptionist was smart enough to understand his intentions. Good. Vaughn smiled faintly. He grabbed a gold coin from the leather pouch and tossed it to the receptionist. Chapter 279. Slave Auction in Wilkin Ridge. I can't believe that many northern houses are actually involved in this slave auction. Though I'm not surprised that House Harrison is involved in this. Fredrin muttered in a cold voice. Also, Haven't you guys noticed that there is a connection between those houses? Henry asked with a serious voice. Vaughn stared at him with furrowed eyebrows, while Fredrin frowned in contemplation. Now that you mention it, I think there is indeed a link between the houses involved. Fredrin exclaimed when he realized what Henry meant. Most of them are related to the Grand Duke. Henry nodded, his expression grim. Indeed, the Grand Duke was also a member of the imperial family. He was the younger brother of the current emperor, a peak transcendent knight who held great authority in Estania. He was also the second prince's strongest supporter. If the Grand Duke is involved in this matter, could it be related to the second prince too? Everyone was stunned when Fredrin mentioned this. The Grand Duke's involvement was already shocking, and if the second prince was also behind it, it could shake the entire empire once the news leaked out. We can't say for sure. Henry shook his head. We will eventually know the truth once we dig deeper. He added. The mission that they thought was easy turned out to be extremely complicated. Now, they were uncertain if their group was strong enough to complete the task. Our mission is only to save the captured barbarians. You two shouldn't think of anything else. Vaughn reminded them with a stern look. Fredrin frowned at his words. But how could we turn a blind eye to this? He remembered the humiliation and suffering he had endured after he and his wife were captured by slave traders. Thinking about all the innocent people who had to go through the same thing filled with rage and sympathy. Vaughn stared deeply at him. It hasn't been long since he joined House Silversword, so he was still not familiar with Fredrin. But looking at him filled with righteous indignation, he now had some understanding about the latter's personality. So there are still righteous people in this cruel world. I thought Sir Henry was an anomaly, but it seems like the warriors of House Silversword share the same personality. All right, you two. That's enough. We shouldn't argue here. Henry stood in between them. Sir Vaughn is right. Although it is infuriating to know that many innocent people are being sold as slaves, saving them is not what we came here for. The old warrior shook his head. We must prioritize our task before thinking about other matters. As for this slave auction, I will send a letter to Lord Alaric and ask for his opinion on how we should deal with it. Henry's words made Fredrin calm down. Due to his past experiences, he failed to control his emotions. Thinking about this, he cupped his fists. I wasn't thinking straight. Thank you for your reminder, Sir Henry. The old warrior waved his hand. Let's not dawdle here. We still have things to do. Let's move out. Yes, sir. Meanwhile, in another part of Copperglade, a minor district called Wilkin Ridge. This district was normally quiet, but today, the streets were filled with droves of carriages driving around. Most of the residents didn't know what was going on, but the well-connected ones were aware that a major event was about to happen. At this moment, inside the most magnificent building in the district, a 5-story establishment called Crimson Pavilion. Many guests have gathered, most of them hailing from aristocratic backgrounds. While enjoying the drinks served to them, everyone formed groups to make more connections. It was just like a banquet held for the nobility. However, all these people didn't come just for this. Their objective was to get their hands on the auction slaves. I heard that House Harrison will join this year's event, and their new family head is also going to attend. House Harrison? Who cares about them? They are nothing now after they had provoked House Silversword. Humph. Why did they have to provoke that household? How foolish. Henry and the others who had concealed themselves heard this conversation, but they didn't give much of a reaction. To infiltrate this establishment, they bribed one of the guards. They also wore masks to cover their faces. There were some guests who had covered their faces, so they didn't stand out much. It's positive, Sir Henry. The receptionist didn't lie to us. Fredrin whispered after a close observation of the guests inside the establishment. Henry nodded and replied. Just lay low and don't stand out. We still haven't found the captured barbarians, so we must keep looking before the auction begins. I suggest that we move in pairs. Moving as a group will only attract attention. Vaughn suggested. Fredrin and Henry agreed with him, so they instructed their subordinates to move separately. After another half an hour, more and more guests arrived, but they still hadn't found any clues about the captured barbarians. Suddenly, the sound of a hammer being struck echoed. Hearing this, Henry and the others frowned. It was the sign that the auction was about to start. Everyone silently regrouped and headed to the seats they had agreed beforehand. At this moment, a scantily clad young woman walked towards the center of the stage. Her sexy figure and beautiful face immediately attracted everyone's attention. Good day, everyone. I will be your host for this year's auction. You can just call me Lala. The young woman introduced herself in a seductive voice. Many perverted nobles from the audience were excited to see her. Some even cheered loudly without shame. Looking at the excited crowd, the scantily dressed Lala smiled alluringly. Many of you have come from afar, so I won't waste your time further. With the quality of the products this year, I believe that you won't regret coming here." With her announcement, the audience exploded into cheers and applause. Is this the filthy world of the nobility? Vaughn, who was watching the excitement, sneered. If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.